took long enough, but the Shinx to Luxray line finally got a regional form. What did they get? What do you mean they just added a second electric typing? Hey, what's good, Joe? Soul here, and welcome back to the story mode. So, during this long wait for Pokemon Winds and Waves, we still have a lot of things to consider. One of the things that we've had to look forward to every new generation of Pokemon is what kind of regional forms we're guaranteed to get. Ever since 7th gen, Pokemon have now had the chance to get something of a rework. A new design, a new typing, new abilities, new moves. What's cool about it is that it's always done in a way that gives us new opportunities with that Pokemon without completely eradicating the original. Though I'm sure plenty can agree that there are some situations in which there are Pokemon with regional forms that do render the original kind of pointless to use. But, you know, I think I'm more than okay with that. There are some Pokemon out there that need a rework so bad that if they were guaranteed to get some form of regional form, I'm okay with never looking at the original again. Cause I'm telling you right now, a regular Zigzagoon is never gonna see my party ever again. That being said, I did initially make a list of Pokemon that I really wanted to see regional forms for. However, I thought it would be a lot more fun and interesting to open up the discussion to everyone. Just the other day, I asked you guys what Pokemon you would want to see regional forms for in Pokemon Winds and Waves. Initially, it was a poll between whether or not we should talk about gimmicks or regional forms, but regional forms won by a bit of a landslide, so yeah, we're gonna do that now. But if you guys want to set one up for gimmicks, we could do that too very soon. So we'll talk about that when we get there. Why don't you go ahead, get cozy, put some hot sauce on your mashed potato, warm up that leftover Ampharos Knuckles alongside your Sprite, and why don't we go ahead and talk about what regional forms we would like to see going into Pokemon Winds and Waves. Now, before we get started with responses, I want to put my two out there really quick. Obviously, my number one is always going to be the Shinx to Luxray line. As much as I love them, as useful as they can be in certain scenarios, they're just outclassed, right? There are so many other monotype Pokemon that are just stronger and better overall in terms of, you know, move pulls and abilities and whatnot. And obviously, outside of the monotyping, there's no reason for me to use like a Luxray over like Belly Bolt or something like that. They'll always have my heart. I love this line to hell and back, but you know, if we could get some kind of a buff, I'd be happy with that. Now for this next one, I actually had to pick between two because these two are usually one of my picks for Pokemon that absolutely needs a buff the most. And between Mightyena and Delcatty, it's gonna probably have to be the Delcatty line. There's just no reason to ever use this Pokemon. And that sucks, because I love Skitty's design. It's like a little pink cat thing. I love it. But there's just no reason to ever use it. And that's really unfortunate. But, you know, maybe I'm crazy, but those are my picks. Let's start getting into y'all. Let's start things over on the Discord side. And remember, if you ever want priorities during one of these response videos, make sure to join up in the Discord so that whenever I ask for a prompt like this, you can respond there and you can get your comment responded to first. Kicking things off on the Discord side is the big dog Devesta, who answered before the poll even ended. But regardless, given it seems like regionals are winning, like I said during the stream the other day, Ladybug, Ladian really need a regional. They just have such awful stats and moves for the type of Pokemon that they are. Yeah, no, I remember you saying this when we were playing XD Gale of Darkness, and I was thinking of using a Ladybug or Ladian on my team until I realized how awful the movesets and things were as far as stats go, and I was just like, actually no, I don't think I'm gonna keep this thing on my team, and that really sucks because design-wise, really sick. Like, that is one of the definitive Ladybug Pokemon, if not the Ladybug Pokemon, right? I don't think we have anything else, and I feel like it's now like just super overlooked, overshadowed, and just generally outclassed by a lot of other bug and fighting type Pokemon. So yeah, unfortunately, there is definitely no reason not to eventually give this Pokemon some form of rework, hopefully in the form of a regional form in Winds and Waves, because, yeah, I agree, this Pokemon absolutely needs a little bit more love. After that, we had a homie Crispy Boys, who says, Murkrow and Honchkrow are my favorite Pokemon. I wanted a steampunk regional form for them in Galar, but I'd be happy to see the tropical take on the line in Winds and Waves. Don't ask me how that would work, though. I also like the Honchkrow line. They've always been, like, solidly designed. I love the crow design, the blackbirds, they're so sick. I don't know what the tropical crow situation would look like in this scenario, but I'd be down to see whatever they could do if they were to do something with the Murkrow line to Honchkrow line, you know? I like its, you know, its move pool is pretty nice. Design-wise, it's nice. Its stats aren't, like, the strongest thing in the world, but they're okay, you know what I'm saying? I think a new typing could be really fun. Again, though, not sure what they would add. But, hey, of all the Pokemon to potentially get something, I'd be super down for them. Also, steampunk is one of my favorite aesthetics. I would love a big gear bird or something like that, or just something steampunk aesthetic like for Murkrow and Honchkrow. That would be sick as hell, actually, now that you mention it, but I'm not gonna hold my breath because who knows when we'll hit steampunk aesthetic again. Moving along, we got the Pokemon Joe, who says, as much as I really want Flygon to get a regional form for how dirty he got done with not getting a Mega again, or for not being in ZA at all, I think a regional form for Salandit and Salazzle would be cool to see, maybe being where only the males evolve. That could be really cool. I'd be super down for that. I don't know how many like dark water types that we have out here, but I think if we were like super like heavily differentiated from its original, instead of that poison fire, we could have like poison water or dark water or something like that. Just something to help change up its design and just give us like a completely new move pool, something to really utilize. I think that could be really, really sick though, but maybe you don't want to change anything in regards to its like typing too heavily, which I get, but I would love to see like a new form of Salazzle and Salandit. Maybe it wouldn't even be Salandit, it'd be something completely different, but yeah, I'd be game for that. Next, we got the homie Sephi, who says, a water-type Skarmory and a flying-type Ludicolo. As much as I would love to see what they would do with a potential water-type Skarmory, unfortunately we did already see Wingull to Pelipper. We know that that line is in Winds and Waves, like, for certain, so it would be kind of crazy for them to make another water bird out of a bird that already has a unique typing in its steel flying situation. But, you know, the idea in of itself is still really solid. I would like to see what they would do with that. Maybe if we could get something for Skarmory at all, I would love to see what they could do. Maybe it doesn't even need to be a steel type anymore, but I don't know. The whole point of its name is that it's, you know, armor, Skarmore, you know, like, I don't know. I don't know what they would do with that. And a flying type Ludicolo. What? He's like a pineapple duck thing with a lily pad for a head, right? What? Flying type? I mean, I guess it could be another Gyarados type situation where it's just like it has the flying type, but it's not necessarily like too heavily influenced on its design. I don't really know what that would do for it, but I mean, I'm sure you have a reason as to why you picked that one, but I don't know. I think that'd be pretty neat. It'd be fun. I like Ludicolo. Very good Pokemon for the most part. Next to that, we got Big CDT, who says, let's look at some thematic stuff. I'd say there needs to be a regional crab, Krabby, or Corphish, and since we've gotten so much Gen 1 love, let's add the Nidos to it. It's funny that you mentioned that. Corphish was one of the Pokemon that I added to my original list for the original video because I love Corphish. I used to love Corphish when I was a kid. It was one of my favorite Pokemon in Generation 3, right next to Cacturn. I loved its design. It was so fun. In the anime, it was always awesome. I've always loved Corphish, and I think now it is just so severely outclassed. And, you know, the Crawdon evolution with its Water Dark is cool. It's very simple. I do think it needs a little bit of a rework, though, to be able to keep up with the current meta. Maybe we could finally get our second water steel typing. I don't know why Empoleon is the only one in the entire franchise to have that typing, unless I'm missing a newer Pokemon from recent generations, but to my knowledge, it's the only one. It's about time to get another one, and I think giving that to, like, Crawdon would be absolutely fire. Maybe its stats don't necessarily need to be as good as Empoleon, but just something just a little bit more accessible for that typing, I think would be really, really good. Also, under most circumstances, I would probably try to avoid Generation 1, but I think the fact that the Nidos, Queen and King, haven't had any form of regional variant so far is actually really astounding. Why not? I just recently used a Nidoking for my playthrough of Pokemon Blue on my own time. Very solid Pokemon. Obviously, it's, you know, better because Generation 1 has no balancing whatsoever, and that's just a really solid Pokemon to have with you. But I think those Pokemon absolutely deserve regional variants, you know? And it doesn't even have to be both, you know? It could just be one or the other. So I don't know, I would really like to see that. I don't know what they would do for it necessarily, but I would love to see them swap up some typing, some move pools and stuff like that. I would love to see what they do with that. But yes, I agree, the Nidos deserve one, and absolutely Crawdon. I'd be okay with Krabby too, but if I had to pick between the two, yeah, Corphish and Crawdon, please. Next is that dude Elliot, who says, "This is a bit out there, and since we already have seen Wailord in the trailer for Winds and Waves, it probably won't happen, but we could get a flying type or water flying type regional variant. Wailord is based on a blimp, which, well, floats in the sky, and the Pokédex does show that it weighs so little compared to its size that its density is calculated to be less than air, meaning it could take to the sky. I don't know if it's official, but I've heard how Wailord or Wailmer, who doesn't eat enough, can float up in the sky beyond the clouds and never be seen again. Maybe this variant could be them adapting it to maybe even finding sky islands. We could get a Wailord for Winds and Waves. I'd like if its design included clouds of some kind." Do you think that maybe potentially they might have explained it that way to give justification as to why whenever Wailord is on land, it can actually just kind of float to fight? I feel like that might be the primary reason as to why they explained it that way. But if not, then that's a crazy little lore drop that I actually didn't know about. It could be fun to see like a blimp version of Wailord. However, I feel like they might be careful with that one, considering the fact that we already have like a pretty popular blimp Pokemon in Drifloon. So I don't know if they would go about doing something like that and kind of eradicate Drifloon in a way. Well, I guess not eradicate it per se, but we do already have Drifloon, as well as the fact that we've already seen Wailord in the trailer. So it just kind of like, you know, doesn't seem likely this time around though, but I do like the concept of getting like an actual flying blimp whale situation, which could be really, really cool. So it's fun, you know, in theory, but you know, again, we already saw Wailord, so I don't know. After that, we've got the scary McDonald's employee, aka the homie Hydrator. Don't get me wrong, I did read all of this. This is actually really interesting and important stuff here that makes sense to your choice, and I'm gonna make sure that everything that you said is up on the screen for anybody that wants all of the regional lore as to why they picked this one, but I will be summing up the general choice. My pick would be Regional Feebas, and a new regional evolution, or just regional Milotic, based on the legend of Lake Toba, and the Evo/Milotic would be based on an oarfish or a freshwater moray, or both. Oarfish would make sense lore-wise as they're known as the Doomsday Fish. I was thinking to make it either water electric for the thunderstorm and large lightning strikes, or water dark for the curse and disaster bringing legend like Absol. I would want this Pokemon to be beautiful and princess-like, which is why I chose Milotic over Gyarados, also because Milotic has no forms. I think it'd be deserving of a new ability, unlike Mega Emboar for some reason, rest in peace, where if Rain is summoned, it'll boost its electric move power by 1.2 or 1.5. I was reading the folklore for Lake Toba stuff. This is all straight cookery. Like, I'm almost convinced this can or should or will happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is just so well crafted and well detailed. Yeah, I'm almost convinced it would be wrong not to give Milotic something, and this would be the way to do it. And as far as Gyarados goes, Gyarados is way too popular as is. It has a Mega Evolution that we just got again back in Legends ZA. We don't need it anymore. We're good to move over to Milotic or, you know, Feebas or that general line, getting some form of upgrade, some touch-ups, and things along those lines. And this is absolutely the way to do it. Actually, as a matter of fact, I'm going to link both of the links that you put here in the description of the video, just so anybody who's interested in reading up on this stuff wants to, like, you know, see the reasoning behind it. But yeah, this is absolutely the wave. You cooked, Hydrator. And of course, I would never nerf you. You could send the biggest message that you want. Just know that I will always have to find a way to sum it up. But either way, big love to you, gang. Thank you. Next along here, we got the homie Nixie, who says Komodo and Zangoose or Seviper, since they're kind of a package deal. I think it's fair to just say both in that case, because I imagine if they were to add one, they would add the other in the opposite version, right? If Zangoose were in winds, then Seviper would be in waves and so forth, right? And I've always been like kind of an advocate for them either getting like baby evolutions, like pre-evos, or direct evolution, something to just, up the game. Of course, with Seviper, I feel like that's a little bit harder because, we already have like Ekans and Arbok. So whatever they would do with Seviper, it'd have to be completely original. We'd have to have like a new typing added to it and everything like that. But I think it would justify it. And as far as Zangoose goes, I've always really liked Zangoose's design. I think it deserves a little bit better than just a plain normal typing. I think it just needs a little bit more. But I think we could see something really, really cool with an evolution, generally speaking, for Zangoose. Even if it is like a regional variant version of it or a regional variant specific evolution for this region, right? And then Komodo. Isn't Komodo really good? I mean, Komodo wouldn't be my first guess. I feel like it's been a while now, so maybe if there was a time to, make some fun little changes to it, why not? But I feel like Komodo is a good Pokemon, right? I've seen people use it consistently. People like that Pokemon. I've never been like the biggest fan of its design personally, but if they were to change it up, I wouldn't be too mad about it. But okay, fair enough. If you mess with Komodo, sure. Following that, we've got Decidueye, who says, I want to see a regional Dark Poison Gliscor and a Firebug Araquanid. There's just 2 Pokemon that I want to see get new stuff. Dude, a fire type Araquanid is crazy. That's really scary as a concept, like a fire spot. Yo, that'd be tough though. I can't lie to you. That'd be really sick. Design-wise, I feel like they could cook with that. But I used Araquanid once for a playthrough. I think it was for a Nuzlocke or something like that. I used it a long time ago, and I realized it was actually pretty solid. I liked that Pokemon a lot. It was fun to use on my team. I messed with it. And then Gliscor, I love Gliscor so much. I love its design. I'm going to be mad as hell if it's not in Winds specifically, right? I feel like, if as far as like exclusives go, I think it would fit really, really well in Winds because of, the fact that it flies. But like a new typing for that, I feel like it's about time to get like a new regional variant for Gliscor. I think that would be really cool to see like a tropical version of whatever that thing is. Like, it's not like a bat, right? I don't know. I don't know what animal it is. I should have looked it up before this, but I really do love Gliscor's design. I love that the fact that it's like a little speedy little demon. I love it so much. So yes, I'd be super down for like a dark poison version of it. I think that could work really, really well. I'm with that for sure. And lastly, on the Discord side of things, we have Swinley, who says, I honestly don't mind as much who gets a regional, I just want to see more that flip the Pokemon completely on its head. More and more lately, regional forms barely change the typing at all. Like compare Hisuian Avalugg, which just gains the rock type, to something like Alolan Ninetales, which changes completely to an Ice Fairy type. Those ones are always the most unique to me and make it feel exciting to use a familiar Pokemon in a new way. Like, come on Game Freak, show me something crazy, like a Psychic type Ferrothorn based on a UFO, or a rock fire spiel that gets launched out of volcanoes in an eruption. Brother, you cooked just now with the spiel one. Wait, because that one is absolutely insane as a concept and goes crazy. That is so tough, and I know that one's primarily just an example. I don't know if that's like your choice or just an example, but I'm gonna assume that's like the primary, choice that you made for the Pokemon you would want to see. And I'm totally with that, and I 100% agree with your philosophy of making it so that a Pokemon is completely flipped on its head as far as the concept goes, right? For example, one of my favorites is Galarian Ponyta. Galarian Ponyta is easily like just one of my favorite Pokemon, like top 20, I think. I love that line in Galar. It's so good. I love its design, and it completely changes it from a fire type to a psychic fairy, I believe. And I love it so much. It's so good, and I agree that changing it from its root, like entirely, just like completely changing what it is and making it so that it's familiar but completely new, it's so much more exciting. And I think I agree with that philosophy. That's something that they should be doing a lot more of. So yeah, I'm totally with that. So that just about does it for the Discord side of things. Again, if you want your responses prioritized, make sure to join up in the Discord. We have a solid community of a lot of really cool people just shooting the stuff about whatever, whenever, and it's really, really fun. And also, we're going to have a lot more direct response discussions like this one in the near future. Next, we're probably going to end up talking about the gimmicks possibilities. So make sure to be here and prepped for that. But that being said, I'm flipping the coin over and we're moving over to the YouTube side of things. Kicking things off on that side, we have K8T, who says, anything that isn't Gen 1, I am sick of it. Give some oddballs a chance for love. While I do think they could get a little bit more diverse in what generations they pick to get regional variants, I don't think we should completely exclude Generation 1. I know people are just generally sick of Generation 1, just fed up with it. However, like I said earlier in the video, I do agree that the Nidos absolutely deserve some kind of something at this point. It's been so long since they've been really acknowledged, so I think it's about time that Nidoking gets some kind of love, right? Nidoking and Nidoqueen. So I don't entirely agree, but I do completely understand the fatigue of Generation 1 getting as much love as it does. But you know, obviously, as long as we get diverse and we pick some from Gen 1, like a small little, maybe 1 or 2 from Gen 1, and then maybe a couple from Generation 3, and then 4, and maybe 7 or 8. And then we're good. Following that, we have Rubied Riot, who says Politoed, and maybe Tropius. Politoed because I'd like to see it out in the wild, but as a regional variant, maybe Psychic Water, or Water Flying with more of a cloud design, or maybe one with inspiration to gliding frogs. I don't know. Tropius just seems too perfect. It's already a creature of the sky, so why not take it to the sea? But a part of me is like, no, because it'll be misinformation about how people thought that dinosaurs were so big that they had to be aquatic because the water would support them. Maybe take inspiration of a plesiosaur. I wouldn't hate them on like that. Maybe they'd get along with Lapras. I'm gonna keep in that butchering of the word because I don't think I've ever read that one. How do you say it? Plesiosaur? Interesting. What's with flying? Everybody wants to add flying to something today. I don't know what that is, but it's kind of funny. But yeah, okay. I'd be super down with like a flying type Politoed, or like just some form of change for Politoed. I feel like it's been long enough to the point where nobody's really heavily acknowledging Politoed at this point. Although it's still a pretty solid mon. I don't think it's utilized nearly as much as it used to be, and I think it could use some more love in that, you know, direction. So I could absolutely see something like that. As far as Tropius goes though, I think it's a little late for that, considering we already know that Tropius is in the game based on the trailer, and it looks like regular schmegular Tropius to me, which makes sense because it is already a tropical Pokemon. It's basically in its name, Tropius. Like, it's perfect, you know, it's got the bananas on it, you know, it just makes sense. So as cool as a regional variant would be for Tropius, I don't think we're gonna get it solely because Tropius is already here, and it already fixed the tropical theming more than a lot of the Pokemon they already picked. So, you know, again though, fun idea. I would have loved to see it, but maybe Plesiosaur for a different mon. Maybe an actual dinosaur. We'll see what happens. Okay, so this next one cheated a little bit, but I'm gonna give it to you anyway, just because it's so short, but don't do it again. Jokes aside though. Next we have Barry Smith, who says Golduck and Gyarados, so we can finally have a Water Psychic Golduck and a Water Dragon Gyarados. Also Crawdaunt, so we can see how it's really supposed to look. I'm primarily giving this one to you because we already talked about Crawdaunt, and I can't emphasize enough how much I would love a regional variant for Crawdaunt in this scenario. What does that last part mean though? What it's really supposed to look like? Like well, you don't have the true version of it currently because it's not tropical or something? What do you mean by that? I'm not really sure. Gyarados I can have or not have, but I think it would be cool generally speaking. But again, you know, as far as the picks of Generation 1, I think Gyarados has gotten enough love, so I can take or leave that one. But Golduck is an interesting one because it's in a weird position where it's very clearly meant to be a psychic type next to its water typing, but because we already have Slowbro and Slowpoke, I think they just didn't do that or something. I'm not exactly sure why this happened. I don't know why this very obviously psychic duck Pokemon is a mono water type, and then Golduck has none of those qualities of a psychic duck at all, not like Psyduck does. So it's like, I don't know, maybe we can delve more into that, but would that just kind of like oppose everything that Slowbro is? I feel like that's Slowbro's whole thing, is that it's a psychic type as well, so I don't really know. But I'd love to see them actually dig more into its roots and actually, you know, get something out of its move pool for its psychic typing, but they'd have to change its design entirely, and I love Psyduck's design so much, so I don't know how they would go about that one, but I'd be down for it if they decided to do something. Next to that, we have Tyreek, who says, let's give Whismur to X-Blood a new regional form. Also, Zangoose and Seviper should get something new. I love how it's just like an unconscious, like, mass idea that Generation 3 has to get some form of love this time around, just because it's so heavily, like, relative to this region in a way. So, that's really, really cool. But overall, I 100% agree on Whismur to X-Cloud. It is about time for that line to get something. I want it to get some more love, some more moves, just something sick for it. A new typing would be sick as hell. Maybe Steel, normal Steel, or something. Oh my god, maybe not, dude. That fighting weakness would be disgustingly scary, but I mean, it'd be worth it if it could get some more love in any capacity, because I love X-Cloud so much. That was one of my favorites to use back in Generation 3 alongside Cacturne and I just said it earlier, but either way, yeah, I 100% agree. And like we already talked about with Seviper and Zangoose, yeah, they need something. Following that, we've got Funnel Cake, who says, I personally want Cast Form and Snorlax. Hear me out. We make Snorlax look like the fat tourist who always drops his ice cream in Lilo and Stitch. As funny as that concept is, I don't think just putting clothes on a Snorlax could justify giving it like a new typing, stuff like that, a new ability. But, you know, as a fun little like costume situation, I think that would be absolutely brilliant, and I would love for them to do something like that. It would be really, really fun. But for the most part, I 100% almost fully believe that Cast Form is going to be in this game one way or another. A lot of people have been talking about the fact that we're probably going to deal with like a lot of weather-based conditions again. We're going to be dealing with a lot of weather stuff, and Cast Form not being in this game would be probably criminal if that were the case, considering this is the weather Pokemon. Like, it's just, it would be ridiculous not to have Cast Form here. If it got a regional variant, even better. Something that fits even more in line with the theming of Winds and Waves. Snorlax, I could take or leave it, but I'd be down if we did get some form of new Snorlax, but I don't know. Maybe that mossy Snorlax from Pokopia, maybe they could do something with that. Turn that into like a ground type or something. That'd be really fun, I think. Next along, we got the homie Hirose, who says, sure, I may be biased since he's one of my favorites, but Gyarados, instead of making more new fish to compete and lose against my little magical carp, why not give him a new regional form? We all love Magikarp Jump, right? Right? It's been 80 years since I have given a single thought to Magikarp Jump. What whiplash. Oh my god, I completely forgot about that game. I spent an absurd amount of time on that one, I can't lie. But either way, like I said, when it comes to Gyarados, I could take it or leave it, only because, you know, Gyarados is like a generally like popular Gen 1 Mon. I mean, not as much anymore, but it's definitely gotten a lot more love than a lot of other Gen 1 Mons, which is why it's just kind of like hit or miss for me. But if we were to get a regional variant for Gyarados, it's not like I wouldn't use it. I absolutely would be down to try it out and see what it gets, you know. I wouldn't be mad about that whatsoever. So I totally get that, and if, you know, that's one of your favorites, you know what, more power to you. Maybe it could get that official dragon typing, maybe it could get something else. Just something that isn't flying, probably, right? Because I feel like that flying typing is just not doing it any real favors at this point in time. But who knows, maybe they could swap it out for something else, or maybe give it actual wings. We'd have to see. Maybe make like a land dragon version of it or something. Who knows? Following up, we've got Black Claw, who says, Butterfree or Beautifly. They could be based on the Dragon Tail Butterfly and be Bug Dragon. I'd be down. You know, I did think about this recently, about how Beautifly and Butterfree simply do need something else to really just keep up. You know, nobody's really utilizing those Pokemon over other bug types or anything like that anymore. So, at this point in time, yeah, absolutely. I feel like these Pokemon aren't even utilized more than, like, Vivian and stuff at this point, right? I mean, maybe it's been a while. Hell, I would toss in Dustox, too, right? I feel like if there's any other Mon, like a Moth Pokemon, you know, getting some kind of new detailing in a regional variant, Dustox could be thrown in there, too. All three of them absolutely deserve more love of some kind, and, you know, for the Tropics, would love to see what they would come up with. A Bug Dragon would be really scary, though, because that would completely render the the original forms completely useless. But I guess, you know, it happens sometimes. Again, like with Zigzagoon and Galarian Zigzagoon, so I'd be down for that, though. I could see something like that. Next, we've got Noipoi, who says, Flygon deserves something, and a regional variant for a Sinnoh Pokemon? Anyone? Maybe Luxray? I will always adore and love the Shinx to Luxray line with my entire being. However, it is more than time for it to get some form of buff and change and love. It needs something to be just a little bit more viable because it is simply outclassed by so many other electric type Pokemon, even like Electivire and stuff like that. It just needs more, and I truly do believe that. Hopefully we could get some kind of regional variant for it. I don't know if it would happen here. At the very least, I would love to see if my babies are even in this next game. They haven't been in Legends yet, and they weren't in Pokopia, so I'm a little miffed by that, but hopefully they're at least in the game, and if they are, it would be grand if they got regional variants. Now, as far as Flygon goes, 1,000,000,000,000,000,000%, it has been way too long since Flygon has been acknowledged properly, and it is a damn shame. For that Dragon ground typing, it is a monster, right? It's just simply overshadowed because Garchomp is more popular, which is bull, because Flygon, in my personal opinion, is fire, right? So yeah, I absolutely agree. Flygon deserves some kind of love. If there were any time to give it some kind of regional variant or some type of unique change to something, it would definitely be in this new region, considering the fact that it very clearly has some kind of homage to pay to Generation 3 and 7, right? Specifically 3 though, right? So I'd be more than down for something like that. Next along, we've got RC, who says, I would love an Aipom regional. Like, come on, it fits so well in the Winds and Waves region. It's pretty underpowered, and I love that line so much. Plus, a darker fighting type Aipom could go really hard, I think. For a second regional that I want to see is the Lurantis line. It's a more recent line from what I could tell, is pretty forgotten because it's kind of outshined by Serena, but it also has a really good design. I also think Shiinotic is a Pokemon that deserves more life, but I'd rather see it get an evolution or even a Mega. Aipom is such a good grab, right? Its design is truly phenomenal. The little hand tail monkey, I love it so much. Like, if I had to pick like another mascot mon, not that it's like one of my favorites or anything like that. I mean, design wise, I absolutely adore it. It's just not like too strong in terms of usage, you know what I'm saying? But I would love Aipom. I would love to see it get a regional variant. I absolutely think that's a really good grab, and I think it would make absolute sense for it to be here with a regional variant that could buff some stats and some move pools and stuff like that. It's definitely time for that line to get some kind of an upgrade. I agree. As far as Fomantis and Lurantis go, I 100% agree on the fact that it is kind of just simply outclassed and outshined by Serena, because Serena just has, I'm gonna be honest, a more interesting design, but it does have that like kind of like Praying Mantis vibe about it that's a lot more unique than Serena's. So I think they could definitely do something like that. With that, they could change it up a little bit. I would love to see how they change its design and what kind of typing it could get to really shake things up a little bit more. I think it deserves some more love because overall, I think its design is really, really nice. I just think because Serena exists, there's no reason to use it. But I mean, I don't know, maybe I could be wrong. I've never used one, so I can't speak much on it, but I would love to see what they do with it, if they did anything. And to end things off here, we have Sebastian Jessup, who says, I honestly really want Woobat and Swoobat to get new variants, plus I think they could use a regional evolution as well. Design-wise, they are easily one of my favorites of 5th gen, and I did use them for a Nuzlocke a couple of years ago for the first time, and they are phenomenal. They are so much fun. I love this line. Yes, I 100% agree. Absolutely give them a regional variant. It's about time. Let's switch it up. Maybe not psychic typing this time around. Maybe another poison flying or something more unique. I don't know, because we only have, to my knowledge, we only have the Zubat line as poison flying, right? Which I know would take away from its uniqueness, but overall, I mean, I don't know. Maybe poison psychic. But it's also a bat, so it needs to have some flying capability, so I don't really know. You gotta mix and match whatever's going on there, but for the most part, yes, I agree. I would love to see that line get a little bit more love. I adore Woobat and Swoobat, so yeah, I'd be super down for that. That being said, though, I think I'm going to wrap it up here because this is now a half-hour video. So I think I've done the due diligence of getting through as many of these as possible. Again, thank you guys ever so much for all of your responses. I loved every single one of your suggestions. It was a fun time to talk about this. I definitely want to maybe eventually eventually do like another part 2 of this once we do know what the region is going to contain. Like once we know a little bit more about Winds and Waves, we could definitely run back a part 2 of this, maybe pick out some more, you know, mods and things like that, maybe make it even longer per se. We'll see what happens. But for now, I think we've done a good job of picking out a lot of, you know, very specific mods that definitely need a little bit more love, that haven't been touched in the last couple of years, that definitely need some kind of a boost or some kind of love to really keep up with the current meta, right? So we'll see what happens. It's probably going to be a while before we know anything more about this general region and what it's going to offer for us, but I hope we have something fun to look forward to. But hey, you know what? Maybe that's just me. So that just about does it for this one. Again, we're probably going to do gimmicks next, unless you guys have an idea of something else you would like to do a community response for. We'll definitely try and do it sooner rather than later, but we'll play it by ear. But for now, I think I've said my piece. I'm passing the mic over to you guys. Oh, and by the way, I do know that Pokemon Champions is a thing. That's probably going to be the video after this one, possibly either this weekend or next week. We'll play it by ear. So keep your eyes and ears out because we need to talk about Pokemon Champions. It is crazy out here, gang. But again, I'm passing the mic over in your direction, and I want you guys to tell me everything you're thinking in the comment section below. Do you agree that a lot of the Pokemon that we've picked out in this video definitely deserve some kind of love, some form of attention, and upgrades and things like that in the form of a regional variance? We need some kind of changes to these mons to help them keep up with the current meta. Or are these not Pokemon you would have picked at all? You have a much more, what's the opposite of inferior? Better. I forgot the word, bro, but a better list of Pokemon that you would choose to get regional variants. Tell me everything that you guys are thinking in the comment section below, because you know for a fact that I am always going to be down there with you guys. But with that, yes sir, it does appear to be skedaddle o'clock, so I'm gonna go ahead and do just that. I'd like to thank you guys ever so much for watching. I truly do hope you enjoyed. Do me the greatest favor of dropping a like and a comment, and consider subscribing for more content just like this here. And with that, I'm Gonzo. Thanks again, hope you enjoyed, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Do me the greatest favor of taking good ass care, and I'll see you all next time. Bye! Like this, like switch, like this, priceless, like this, like switch, like this, priceless, hit the light switch if you need a light switch, like this right quick for the